Let's take a look at some information and charts on Solana for Brave New Coin. So Solana currently has an $11 billion market cap, not fully diluted. It's around 55% released so far. So fully diluted is around 19, 20 billion. Still less than Doge, so that can tell you something there. They say that Solana is a fast, secure, censorship resistant, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's got proof of history with a staking component. It is an ETH competitor. It's an EOS competitor. It's a Polkadot competitor. All these things are going to compete for each other, compete for attention and AUM in their products, in their DEXs, in their AMM, in their DeFi stuff. And if Solana can do what ETH can, cheaper, better, faster, stronger, then it'll win, right? If it has the developers, if it has the VC backing, then it should do fine. I think it's too early to tell. I think we can look at some markers to see how it's going. They have super fast block times, very low transaction fees, around 950 nodes. And they have, like I said, they have a DEX, they have stablecoins, USDC, Chainlink, Tether, Radium, and a few other DeFi projects, but still early days. It's still in the gambling DeFi phase, the Satoshi Dice phase, where that's the low-hanging fruit of stuff that starts to appear along with DEXs and AMMs and stablecoins and that sort of thing. So they're laying the groundwork for further activity. It's just super early. Is it probably not worth 11 billion as a network? Probably not. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you are trading this stuff, it's extremely early, got released in around 2020, and is just now sort of adding things onto the network. Has a lot of VC interest from the usual suspects, Sam from FTX particularly. But we can see 67% staking, 55% of the total supply has been released. Like I said, nodes all over the place. Now I don't know how many of these are AWS or Google Cloud Services or whatever. That's always something to keep in mind, especially with proof of stake. And I don't know how much of this is exchange related. Also something to keep in mind with proof of stake. If we look at the validators and the staking APY, it looks like APY is 8%, but I'm not sure the inflation. I assume it's at least 8%, which is on par with other staking networks. And it looks like most of the nodes don't actually have the current upgrade, 17169. Now, is any of this stuff going to move the needle for me as a trader? No. Like, am I going to look at this and say, oh, the nodes aren't upgraded, I'm not going to buy this? It's a death by a thousand cuts thing. If people aren't upgrading the nodes, if the security is poor, if it's centralized, then it just goes in the do not ever trade list for me. Has it been 51% attacked? Do they have issues with block times, that sort of thing? Based on what I can see on an initial pass of the validators, there isn't some massive centralization that's glaringly apparent. Now you'd have to look and do chain analysis on all of these and see how many of these are FTX, how many of these are in Asia, you know, how many of these are exchanges. That hasn't quite happened yet for Solana. Even the information is early days. This is Solana Beach, one of the few places I can actually find information. But the transactions remind me very much of Stellar and Ripple as well, as far as the type of transfers and the type of messages and stuff that you can send on the chain itself. Again, not going to move the needle, but I'm in my head trying to figure out what this is, right? What is it most like? What do I know? What do I understand? Is it something completely new? Is it something we already have that's slightly better or slightly worse? And that's definitely what the market's trying to figure out. It's getting a lot of visibility because it's, like I said, one of Sam's babies on FTX, but that that won't necessarily hold over the long term, obviously. If you look at the tokens, this is like tokenception, tokens inside of tokens. Solanium, which appears to be some sort of fundraising lottery thing. Radium, which is AMM DEX type of stuff. And I don't know TVL, I don't know the usual DeFi information that we see on ETH. So I'm not quite sure what's going on here as far as the statistics are concerned, but it looks fine, right? The DEX looks good. Looks like everything else you'd want. All right, here's TVL, 519 million. Don't know TVL over time. You know, I don't have or know the usual information that I'd like to see at a bare minimum for some of these DEXs and AMMs. It's doing stuff and things and is functional by all appearances, right? Have I used it myself? No, I can't really vouch for it, but it looks as though people are using it and staking inside of it. As I said, they have USDT, USDC, Wrapped ETH, Wrapped BTC. Those are really the top four. My guess is they're trying to court other stablecoins onto the network as well, because at this point, stablecoins are basically the backbone of everything. Serum is a DEX. Don't know the exact volumes per day, week, month, year, that sort of thing. Also good to know. Looks like most of it is its own coin versus stablecoins in Solana. So again, very early days. Very, very early days for Solana. Keep that in mind when you're trading this. Try not to become a community member if this thing falls apart. Here we go. So total inflation 7.7. That's on the higher end of other proof of work. You know, ETH, BTC, Monero. Those are 4% or less. Dogecoin, Litecoin. High inflation is typical for early projects. So another thing to keep in mind is that you're going to see high inflation most of the time in these earlier projects. And staking continues to increase. This is another thing to watch that will move the needle based on supply and demand. If staking falls off, that just means there's more to be sold on exchanges or adds to the supply pressure to the downside. Wealth distribution is important, but not, it's not going to move the needle in the early days because this should look terrible. It should look very poorly distributed across the board. So do I feel like I have the tools and data necessary to evaluate this properly? Not really, but you can see sort of what I'm wanting to look for based on ETH and ETH DeFi stuff. And it's just not even there yet. Even the data is not there yet. So it's early days. Here's technicals, 5,200 volume RSI pivots. And Solana's done quite well over the past 24 hours, like 20% to the upside. It has this Adam and Eve characteristic, W double bottom, that everything has right now. So this bodes well for everything else that hasn't broken up yet. Curve was one of the earliest that actually broke up over the past 2 days. Solana now is breaking up, and this bodes well for ETH. It bodes well for all of DeFi. All of DeFi has this exact chart and could signal a more bullish run in the future for all this stuff, right? Like, is it going to be a January to May type run? Probably not, but it will be something in the upward direction. In Solana's case, that may represent new all-time highs. I like 100 just because it's a round number, but the market cap would explode at that point. Otherwise, supports at the 200-day moving average around 20.15 on the monthly pivot. What you don't want to see is any higher highs on less RSI, lower RSI. That would be a bearish divergence. You don't want to see higher highs on lower volume, another bearish divergence. But overall, it looks fine on the daily. It's above the trend metrics it needed to hold to stay bullish. Certainly more bullish than the BTC chart looks. Even the cloud looks more bullish than ETH even, in that it's still above the cloud and has a pending bullish TK cross over the next week or so. Another indication that this could run further to somewhere north of 56 beyond current all-time highs, whatever the current all-time high is. And this is the type of cross-recross you want to see, recapturing support basically. You have this bull trend, you test support. Does it fail? No? Okay, we go again, right? So we're looking at anything above 56 there. Here's the Sol BTC chart. Since January, it has knocked the pants off of BTC, going from 6,000 sats to 100K plus sats, just an insane run. So I'm hesitant to get excited about jumping into anything that's exploded since January, but it's still above the cloud. It's still above the 200-day moving average. It's threatening potential head and shoulders here, potential diamond top, that sort of thing. But if it breaks these highs, it looks like it's good to go. But in general, it looks like it needs a little more time to figure itself out. Definitely doesn't look as ready for all-time highs, maybe as the USD pair even does. And the Sol ETH pair is the least bullish, the most neutral to bearish. It's starting this massive W. Potentially will have another bullish TK recross above the cloud with price above the cloud, which would be a go long signal, but it's not there yet. And we'll probably know in July, really across the board, if we're going to see anything like we did from January to May. But it'll be pretty obvious. Again, you'll have this W, you'll have trend metrics bullish. It's still above the 200. So overall, it still looks okay against ETH even. Lastly, I'll just mention the ETH-BTC fund I trade for Techemy Capital, and the DeFi portfolio I trade as well, both on Enzyme.finance, non-custodial portfolio management tools. You can check out or participate in everything I'm doing here on both of these trading instruments You can see all the trades I make through dexes. You can see the deposits, the withdrawals, the performance, the allocation. That's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.